Lauren, welcome to the Point of Impact. I'm, very excited to get into your story and share with the audience how, in actually quite a short amount of time, you've become financially free through real estate investing, and uh, of course, being a real estate investor myself, I am very interested in how you got it done, and you're doing it today. So thanks for being here.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here, excited to tell my story and hope that something I say resonates with some people out there and helps them get started.
Terrific. So why don't we start with uh, where are you right now in your real estate journey, your investments? What kind of holdings have you got? And uh, we'll start from the end and then go back to the beginning.
So as of today, I have approximately 9 flips going at different stages. That includes, actually does not include, also have a 8-plex that I'm in the process of working on and a 6-plex. All told, I have approximately $5.2 million worth of assets that me and my partner manage, which equates to 47 properties and 63 doors.
Fantastic. All right. Now, how long ago did you get started?
So I purchased my first property in November of 21 and purchased my second property in April of 22. So we've purchased the vast majority of our portfolio in just over the last like 14 months.
You you've done all of this. What 60 some? What was it? 60?
Yeah, like 63 doors, I think.
63 doors in less than 2 years.
Correct.
That's fantastic. And uh, tell me about the first one.
So, I mean, to understand the first one, I think you have to take a step back to before the first one. COVID hit our family, not in a bad way, but I would say in like maybe the best way possible. I was working a corporate job, and really working to climb that ladder. And then one day they went from 5 days a week in the office to 5 days a week at home. And I realized that my income wasn't as stable as I thought it was just because if they can make that shift, they could also make some other decisions that greatly impact my life and my family. And so my wife and I, when we have 4 kids, we're spending quite a bit of time hiking, and we realized we needed some other options. And so I decided that real estate was going to be the vehicle that I used to get that after trying a couple other things first. And I really got stuck in the mindset of why I couldn't do it. I didn't have a down payment. I didn't know anybody that did real estate besides one person. My family doesn't come from real estate. At that time, we were paying on student loans, and we were using all of our available funds to pay that off, and my wife wasn't willing to give me any funds to basically go forward and to go on this crazy dream of creating financial freedom for us. But I did have about $7,000 that I was able to play with, and so she said, you can do something with $7,000, go for it, otherwise we'll wait until we've got enough down payment. So I really got stuck in the mindset of why I can't do it instead of how I can do it. And
Hmm.
it wasn't until I was at a bonfire in May of 21 with somebody that I did know that does real estate. And he made one comment to me, and it was, if you find a good enough deal, we will find the money. And that just kind of set me off. I went down the path of looking into self storage, and then transitioned from that because of the long lead time of building and then getting funds for that. Went to mobile home parks, and in the process of looking for mobile home parks, now remember I had $7,000 in my account. I made several offers, one $4 million offer, one $2 million offer, figuring that if they accepted those, I would be able to find the funds for it. But I really spent a lot of time cold calling and networking with other investors, and through that process met a guy that didn't want to sell his mobile home park, but he did have a triplex that needed renovation. He needed some cash to deal with a big apartment complex he just purchased. And honestly, I think he wanted to just help me out to some extent. And so he offered to seller finance that triplex to me. and not only seller finance it, but help me understand like how to, do evictions, give me contacts for contractors, and kind of walk me through the overall process from start to finish. So I owe a lot to him, for helping me out. But that really got me in the door and got me moving is that first property. And so we purchased that in November of 21. It took some convincing to for my wife, because I went and got a HELOC on our house in order to put the down payment on it. And she's very data oriented, so I had a spreadsheet and a PowerPoint that I presented to her and why this was a good idea, and I wasn't crazy. Um, and yes, we got that one done. We started renovating it. We got it all done, and then we just about finished it. And the like sister property, half a mile away, showed up on the MLS. And I didn't have any money at the time because it was all tied up in that property. We hadn't done the refi yet. And so just through my networking, I knew a couple of people that were buying similar properties. And so I called one of them and said, hey, it's a great property. You should buy it. And his immediate response was, well, why aren't you buying it? I said, well, I don't have any funds right now. I need to get this other one refinanced. And he says, well, I'm going up there today. Why don't you come look at it with me since you know the property so well? I mean, it was exactly the same as mine. And so we walked around through it, and he's like, well, do you want a finder's fee for this property? I said, honestly, Eric, I'm like $1,000 would be nice, but I'm more interested in just having somebody I know own the property. And um, then, I can tell you what's going on there, but I just want people around me to do well, because if people around me are doing really well, then I will do well, just in conjunction with that. And he said, well, how about this? I've got funds, but I'm not great at finding deals right now, or I don't have time to find deals. He's good at finding deals, but didn't have time. You brought me the deal. I will give you manage it. I will buy it, and we will do a JV and split the profits 50-50 on the rental income. And at that point, my pinch point with my business was funds, right? I knew how to find properties. I was seeing regular properties that would make money. I was really good at networking. I'm pretty good at project management, but I didn't have funds. He had quite a bit of funds through private money lenders available to him. But he was lacking that kind of organizational or um, uh, ability to keep things organized and stuff and kind of really build a business, because he just has so many things going on. And so I said, I'm going to be your biggest partner by the end of the year. He had a couple other partners. So let's just focus on one. And by the end of the year, I think I was his biggest or his second biggest, and I'm definitely his biggest now. And so yeah, we end up buying 6 more in June, and then I know throughout the year we bought 39, I think, last year, and then the rest of them have been this year.
That's incredible. There's a couple things through that. The first being, there's a few mindset shifts you had to go through from uh, changing that I can't to how can I, and the the also the statement somebody gave you about uh, what was it? When you find the right deal, you'll find the money. Oh, so you had $7,000 for that first deal, but the deal was a seller finance. How much did you have to put down on that?
So he wanted a pretty decent amount down. I think I put 50% down. So I paid 140,000 for the property, all told. He seller financed half of it. Looking back, it was not a home run deal. Solid base hit, but not a home run deal. But the point of your first property isn't to have a home run deal. The point of your first property is to have a first property, right? Because once you have first, like I know very few people, actually I don't know anybody that has one property. I know lots of people have none. I know lots of people that have several, but I don't know anybody that has one. The first one's the hardest. Second one's infinitesimally easier than the first one. And they get easier every time past that.
You still got to get the bodies on the bases before you can have a grand slam, right?
That's right.
Uh, in fact, my first deal was absolutely not a grand slam. It wasn't a home run. It was barely a base hit. But so yeah, I understand that completely. The first one is to get your foot in the door. It's to get take action. and learn.
Hmm.
They're always learning experiences.
Yeah, for sure.
So
The amount of experience you get just from doing it, like you can never get that out of a book or watching someone or doing like the money might not be there on the first one, but the knowledge you gain from it is so much more valuable than any amount of money, cash flow, or appreciation you could ever get from a single property.
yeah, there's so many things you can read, and you're taking input that other people have chosen to, the information have chosen to give you through blogs or forums or books. And I same thing for me. I was reading all of the or listening to all the audiobooks. I was going to Bigger Pockets and other forums. I was asking questions, but you don't know what questions to
Hmm.
ask until you need them answered sometimes. Uh, so you got started. Yeah, you found this triplex. How did the conversation come up about the seller finance?
So when I said I had $7,000 to begin with, well, the first thing I actually spent my money on was a creative financing course because I knew that I wasn't going to be able to go and just get bank funding with $7,000, 20% down. And
Hmm.
so I went and took a creative financing course to learn exactly how that all worked, sub twos, wraps, seller financing, private money, the whole shebang. And so when we were talking about it, I had a pretty strong understanding at that point of what we were talking about. And so he wanted just to sell it to me outright. And so I basically said, well, I'm open to buying it, but because of your experience, I mean, I'd like you to be involved, and you already own this thing outright. So let me pay you, more than what you're asking for it through the course of interest payments over the course of a year, right? And you also have a vested interest in the property because you don't want it to go, get turned, me to mess up and have you get it back with half renovations done and less vacancy than what it currently has now. So you can help me. I'm helping you. And he has a couple sons that are, I think at the time they were 18 and 21. And so I was able to kind of get some information or learn some things off of them because they've been around real estate more, but they were also able to learn some things about from me because I'm very systems and process oriented. And so we were able to kind of help each other grow because we had a different perspective and a different skill set.
I definitely want to get into the systems and processes and the foundational part of your real estate business. But first, how did you what methodology did you pick? You said you've got some flips going on right now, but you
Mm-hmm.
also have these 63 doors or so. Uh, are you doing more of the value add burr strategy, or you doing a mix of flips and buy and hold? What are you looking for when you find a deal?
Yeah, so I mean, our primary focus is buying rental properties that are going to cash flow, and they're in heavily appreciating markets. And by heavily appreciating, I mean like over the next 5 to 10 years. So we operate in sub markets on the east side of Raleigh, markets that they're not like going to be big hits and a lot of really nice houses put in next year, but we expect them to grow quite significantly over the next 5 years. Um, we also are playing in the low income category for no other reason than there's always going to be people that need housing, especially in that low income category. And with the areas that we're buying in, we see a lot of opportunity from appreciation as big manufacturers come into those areas over the next 5 to 10 years as the greater Raleigh area explodes, as housing expansion goes out and people need, cheaper homes. All the people that work in service industries are going to have to find cheaper houses to live in. And so we really started playing in there. And to your question around birds, yeah, we are buying almost all value add houses. I think we have very few properties that we purchase that need less than $10,000 worth of renovations. And we're using almost exclusively private money lenders to do that. So our private money lenders are lending for us at 70% of LTV, that's purchase plus renovation, and then they basically get equity share in the property for a couple years until we refinance it. And this gives them the ability to make a really decent, really good return. Like I think our average return on a 3 to 5 year note is close to 30% annual on these because they're funding everything plus the renovation and then getting a chunk of the equity at the refinance. And what works great for us is we're getting cash flow that whole time. Plus, in 3 to 5 years, when we refinance, the appreciation comes up, then we get the property and we haven't put any of our own money into the deal whatsoever. So we focused really heavily on those in 2022. And then in 2023, the beginning of this year, we were looking at our business. We had some big expenses come up in December, like a couple sewage lines went out, HVACs went out, things of those natures, and realized that cash flow is great, but it doesn't account for all these big expenses that you can't foresee. And so we needed to bring more revenue into the business, and so that's when we started doing flips. Really is just a way to add an income stream to the business to create more stability overall. And so we started off with one in February, and then we've bought several over the last few months. And like I said, I think we have 9 going right now, several that are either on the market listed or will be listed the next week or two, and a few that we will begin working on in a couple, like a month. And a couple that we're halfway through. So I've got 5 contractor crews working on those at any one time.
So you've got to find multiple contractor crews. You got to find all these deals, and you've got
Hmm.
to match them with the private money. It's where do you find all of these? First with the deals? Where are you going to find these project properties?
So 78.3% of our deals at this point come from wholesalers. We've cultivated quite a nice network of wholesalers. And of those 78%, I think probably 80% come from 2 or 3 wholesalers. And then we pick up a handful of other ones from other wholesalers that are less loyal to us or less, I don't know how you want to say it, but we don't do as much business with them. And then the rest are mostly from, I'd say probably the majority of the rest are from the MLS. We pick up several from the MLS. And then we'll also pick up 1 or 2 a year, probably from
You
either
were
word of mouth or
finding
from
70%
contractors.
deals on the MLS in 2021.
Sorry, say that again.
That's fantastic. And you do this through realtor reach outs? Did you get a license yourself? Or are you just looking online?
Yeah, we have realtors in each of the markets we work in, and they'll send us deals when they have them that they think will meet our criteria. And then also, we have real um, Zillow searches set up that come in, and I'll look at those. But a lot of times, my realtors are sending them to me before I even see them on Zillow.
In multiple markets?
Yeah, we're in five going to
Five?
be 6, 5. Yeah, I'll be 6 in a couple weeks. Markets, and we have a property manager in each one of those cities from a risk mitigation standpoint for our rentals.
I've heard there's discussion about property managers versus VAs.
Hmm.
Why do you prefer property managers over a virtual assistant?
Yeah, I mean, right now they have the local knowledge, especially in these kind of low income areas that we can lean on. They're fairly quick to get set up, especially as we enter into a new market, because I can just interview 2 or 3 and pick one, and then we've got local knowledge we can rely on. As we continue to grow, it's a conversation that my business partner and I continue to have on whether we bring some of that in house or if we keep it all out external. But right now, like we need to spend most of our time finding deals, finding private money, and managing our contractors. And so it doesn't make sense for us to use up our valuable time for a task that, when I run the math, across our portfolio is somewhere around $4 to $5 an hour for property management.
That definitely sounds like a good reason. Uh, how about finding the money? Well, how do you develop these relationships? How do you find lenders, private lenders, and how do you develop a relationship with them?
I mean, so it's really, there's two ways. There's just constantly talking to people about what I'm doing and what my partner is doing. And so, for example, last weekend, 2 weekends ago, I was at a birthday party for one of my kids' friends down the street and ended up talking to one of the neighbors. And he ended up revealing that, he was interested in real estate. He had a pretty decent amount of money set to the side and was interested in further conversations about how he could get those returns that I talked about earlier, either with flips or with rentals. And so we basically set up a call with him and my business partner who manages our lender relations thing side of the business, and gave him the pitch, and they're on board to move forward. The other way is really word of mouth, lender to lender. So once you have a lender that is established and been doing business with us, and if he's happy with the business he's doing with you and the interactions he has and the returns he's getting, he's going to tell his other friends. He or she is going to tell his other friends that what he's doing, what kind of returns he's getting, and oftentimes those friends will come either directly to us or they will route money through that point of contact to us.
So it's not finding, sometimes it's finding private money lenders, sometimes it's creating them. Uh, they're, like you said earlier, when you have the right deal, the money appears.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a missing piece there, and I think that's you're just putting it out to the world. Constantly talking about what you're doing because it's a passion, right?
Mm-hmm.
The same thing happened for us with a few of our deals. We were just talking real estate and met somebody who was a professional, a doctor, didn't have time but wanted to grow his investments in his self-directed IRA, and down the road we had contacted him, and he's partnered with us on a few projects. And then it's just from talking to
Yeah.
people, telling people, putting it out there, putting it out to the world. So this is all we've got multiple projects, multiple entities here with uh, project managers, or property managers, contractors, lenders. How do you keep it organized? What's the business look like?
So it's an ongoing process of organization and streamlining, right? But so my business partner and I, one of the things you'll find if you are in a partnership is when you first get started, if you don't really well organize, you're going to end up stepping on each other's toes a lot. You'll end up doing things that they should be doing. They'll do things that you should be doing. There'll be things that you both think are your responsibility that nobody does. And so we made really clear roles and responsibilities at the beginning of this year to smooth some of that out. And so my business partner is responsible for all of our lender relations. So he deals with all the private money lenders. He deals with all the paperwork for the loans, that kind of stuff. He also is responsible for disposition. So as we sell stuff, he negotiates with the sellers. He's dealing with the realtors, things of that nature. And then he also is managing our property managers. So as work orders come in, as rent change requests come in, he's dealing with all of that. My responsibility is really at that kind of visionary level, as well as operations and project management. So I'm responsible for our executives virtual assistant that we have or bringing on board, creating SOPs. I create our CRM system. I set up our file management system for all of our business files. I am making sure bills get paid, making sure the controller basically what money's coming in, what money's going out. Are we still able to fund projects? I give the yes or no on new projects. And then on project management, I'm the point of contact for all of our property or all of our contractors, not the subs, but like the on-site contractors, making sure they're staying on time, on budget, and falling within the design guidelines that we have set forth for our flips and for our rentals. So it's really kind of a full system, but we're really working hard right now to streamline that, to integrate more automation into the system, so that we're using less text messaging and less emails and more, hey, this thing got done, marked done in the CRM, and someone automatically gets a notification and assigned to it. to move things along faster, and also looking to potentially add some more tools to our technology stack to make the payment of bills faster, make more efficient, more redundancy in the system, with less manual entry of things multiple times.
What kind of softwares are you using for, say, project management, CRM, note tracking, that kind of stuff?
Yeah, so right now our primary tool is Monday.com. It's a CRM that we're using, and we selected that last year because my business partner had some experience with it for the previous or another business, and so just to move into something that somebody was familiar with. I'm also familiar with Salesforce, but that one's a much bigger beast and not quite as user friendly off the bat. So we built everything in Monday.com right now. From a payments standpoint, we heavily utilize the reoccurring payments tools within Chase.com, which is our banking system. And then we have a few other tools that we connect in there, such as like batch leads for ARV calculations, Rentometer for rental things, and then our property managers are using different property management software such as Appfolio and Buildium. And then the number one tool that I wish we would have established from day one of the business that caused me a number of headaches is we did not have a good financial tracking system. So we started the business basically in April of last year, and then put QuickBooks into place in November, December, and that was an awful November and December for me to try to do transaction categorization on like 10,000 transactions, plus get all the classes set up. And we hired a bookkeeper and we have an accountant on staff to get all of our reporting done, because I can't operate the business at the level we're at or the level we're going without really solid balance sheets, profit and loss, variance reports, and budgets. I need to have all those things immediately at my fingertips in order to operate a business the size that we're going to get to.
Yeah, we're about to upgrade our bookkeeper to CFO. Uh, she's been fantastic. Uh, the proverbial receipts in a shoebox
Mm,
would have been an upgrade for us in the beginning. It was more like a huge knot of Christmas lights in a box that we just handed our bookkeeper and said, "Here, fix this."
yeah.
Uh, thank goodness, because the financial part is a huge one. It's a huge uh, time drain.
Hmm.
It's, yeah, a stress point. To have somebody make sure that's all organized is just a huge burden off it, because yeah, that's like the who, not how type
Hmm.
thing. You don't want to be burdened by managing a property, so you get a property manager. You don't want to be burdened by managing your finances, so you get a financial manager. Uh, and just keep making sure things are organized. That's fantastic. There are a few different systems and processes here. Do they integrate well, uh, or do you find yourself now working a lot in the, organizing the technologies?
Yeah, that's where we're at right now, is organizing the technologies and putting the standard operating procedures and people in place to use them. I think when you first are getting started, and I did this to some extent, but not in other ways. When you're first getting started, everything's so small. You're like, okay, well, I have like 5 transactions a month. I can track these within my bank account, so I don't need to worry about it. And then you get to a certain point, and you've gotten so far down the path that you're no longer keeping up with what you need to be keeping up with. But it's daunting to put a system in place because of the upfront work that's going to be required. And so I did a really good job when I first started of like, hey, I know I'm going to be a big real estate investor. And so I'm going to put, things like I put Buildium in place when I was self-managing for the first 6 months. And I put a really strong file management system and things like that together. But I was like, oh, I just didn't want to pull the trigger on that $40 a month for QuickBooks, which looking back, I'm like, gosh, that $40 a month would have saved me countless hours of time, right?
Hmm.
But you constantly are learning, and I'm sure there's things that I'm doing today that in a year I'll be like, why was I doing that? It's taken us this long to really start outsourcing and hiring VAs and bookkeepers, because I've been really good at, hey, I'm not going to go paint a house because that's a $10 an hour task and my time's worth $200 an hour. But if it's on my computer, for some reason, a $5 task seems like it's doable for me. And
Hmm.
so I need to be more deliberate about what are the things that are low value items that I can give to someone else and save my time for the high value strategic work that's going to drive the company forward. I did a
That
I did a time analysis study on myself a couple of weeks ago and realized that probably 75% of the time I was spending on things that bring no value into the business besides just keeping the wheels turning. And that meant that I was only spending 25% of my time on things that actually generated profit for the company. Right. And so you look at it that way and you're like, well, I need to hire people because it's costing me money not to hire people.
it's pretty darn close to the Pareto principle.
Mm.
The 80.
Right.
Funny how that works out.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, I guess, when it comes to systems and processes and technologies, that has to grow up with your organization too. You don't
Mm-hmm.
need to buy or subscribe to all of those things when you've only got your first property. What would you suggest somebody have in place before before that first property? Or where would one get started?
Yeah. So I think there's this concept that my friend falls into it a lot, but people worry too much about having everything perfect. Like, okay, I'm going to have 100 doors someday, so I need to have all these things exactly in place in order to facilitate what that business is going to look like in 3 years, right? And I think that it's more important to take a step forward and take action and do something than it is to do the exact right thing. And what I mean by that is sometimes you get more momentum doing the wrong thing, taking a step in the wrong direction, than if you sit there and think about what is going to be the exact right step moving forward, because you can get yourself in analysis paralysis on what CRM I should use, or what's what banking tool I should use, or should I set an LLC up, right?
Hmm.
Just in order to buy a house, right, you can put it in, your first house can be in your own name. You need to understand like how you're going to manage it. So are you going to manage it, or is property manager going to manage it? um, and how are you going to fund it? That's really all it. Everything else, once you get into it, you will start figuring things out when you need to. So find a property, get it under contract, and then you just by natural occurrence will start figuring things out, because things will start hitting you in the face and they will be like demanding your attention, and then you can go forward from there. I get so I push on people so hard, like, you don't need to worry about exactly that. Like, oh, I can't, how are you going to find a contractor? Like, you don't have a property. Worry about finding a property first. And if you don't have a property, like, you don't know what you're going to invest in. Figure that out first. So first figure out what you're going to invest in, how you're going to fund it, then find a property, then worry about a contractor. That, it's just iterative from there. Instead of worrying about the whole thing all at once, you get overwhelmed and you don't make any action or take any steps forward.
Yeah, that's uh, yeah, it was so true for me when I was getting started. But I was driving my partner crazy, trying to employ traction in EOS from book traction.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, when somebody said, you probably don't need that, until you have 5, 10 employees. Like, oh, okay. Take the best parts of what you've read, and get started and get it going. Right? You don't have to have everything. You don't need to know everything immediately. That comes with the process. It was also that kind of going back to the Pareto principle, and it was something you said about trying to find somebody to do those things that you didn't want to, or you were doing, they weren't bringing value to the operation. And it's true for me, is, of course, there are many things that I can't possibly do, and it was frustrating for me because obviously I can't. It just don't. It's not realistic for me to jump into an Uber and go check out a house every time a possible deal comes up. And I'm definitely not going to be the one swinging the hammer or fixing the toilets or anything like that. So I had to find, those the right people in the right seats. And so you build the right team, and you make sure you have sometimes you got to sit in multiple seats, but to run a business, you've got to you got to get yourself fired from as many seats as possible, right? Uh, so if somebody wanted to get started investing in real estate, doing flips, or start to build their portfolio as you have, where should they get started? What are some of the actions they should take right away?
So, number one thing you should do if you want to get started and you don't know where to begin is start going to real estate investing meetups or meetings. We have a North Carolina RIA, we have a TRIA. Me and a friend started a Johnson County, which is the county we live in, meetup. But really, going to those and just hearing how other people speak about real estate, understanding the terminology, learning, start networking with people, and from there you can start figuring out, what do I want to invest in. Once you figure out what you want to invest in, start telling everyone, right? Oh, I want to buy, and be specific. I want to buy this type of house in this area, and I want to have it be this percentage of LTV, or like loan to value. Be as specific as possible, because if you're looking at, oh, I want to look at the southeast of the United States, or even North Carolina, right? There's so many things to look at. Every market, every city is a little different. Like, you'll never become really, really, really good at any one area. So start networking, figure out where and what you want to invest in. It doesn't even matter if it's what you end up investing. I started in looking at self-storage, and now I'm doing, single families and multi-families. You just shift along the ways to what's going to meet your goals and fit your why better, right? And then once you have the network established, then it's really a matter of, how do I run these numbers? And it's a math equation. Finding as many deals as you can, even if they're junky deals, and just getting really comfortable with running the numbers. When I started, I had a Zillow notification that's set up, and I would run 2 to 5 deals, just any property that came through every morning, using either a calculator or an Excel sheet. Eventually created quite a nice Excel sheet that I could just dump numbers into, and that's what we give to our VA now. But what it taught me was, this deal that came up on Zillow, I can now look at it in that area and know whether it's a good deal or not in 30 seconds, just because of what I know those houses are worth, what I know that rent is. I've run that house or a similar house, 15, 30 times. And so I have a really good idea, if a house comes up in that area and it's this price, like, that's not a good deal. If it comes up and it's this price, it might be a good deal. And if it comes up in this price, I should buy it immediately, kind of thing. And that's how you can really move quickly on MLS deals. But it also gives you a lot more confidence, because one of the biggest things new investors struggle with is, am I making the right decision? I don't have the confidence to do this. They have all these worries about things that they don't even have the right to worry about yet. Like, am I going to be able to find contractors? What if I can't find a renter? Like, your first worry is this property going to make money, right? And how do I run the numbers? And you just kind of go back from there. And once you figure out that, then you worry about the next thing. But run numbers all the time and network. And when you find a deal that's good, then talk to your network and try to find funds for it. Or if you have a nest egg and you want to get funds from an institution, go that route. But you'll feel a lot more comfortable if you've run 100, 200 deals through your calculator and say, yes, this is a good deal and this is why it's a good deal, right? Because you'll have all that experience and all those data points in your head that you can just automatically see a deal and know whether it's worth a dang or not. Still run your numbers, but you'll have a lot better idea, and it'll be a lot easier to weed out the bad ones.
That was a really good point you made about going to as many meetups and just mixing yourself up with the community, and then putting the word out of what you're looking for. Uh, you're building a reputation. You're building a brand. You know, you're you tell everybody that you're the tiny home guy, or the mobile home guy or the duplex guy. And soon enough, if people start associating you with those things. So if a duplex comes up, it's like, oh, you know what? I'm gonna call Lauren. You know, and just you start planting uh, that bug in everybody's ear, and eventually you become known, and people start looking for you. Uh, would you recommend what a favorite business book, business related book for helping get started?
Yeah, I mean, obviously the tried and true one for just changing your mindset is Rich Dad Poor Dad. Was life changing for me. But from starting out and just learning how to run numbers, managing rental properties by Brandon Turner is always one that I recommend people when they're just starting, because it makes it very straightforward and very simple on how to run numbers. The other really great resource, and it's free, is so not affiliated or anything, but Chad Carson or Coach Carson on YouTube. He has a lot of really good, like, tactical, this is how you do back of napkin math on a rental
Hmm.
property on YouTube. And I watched a ton of those, right? And so there's like a stair step of learning when it comes to anything. For me, it's always start with YouTube. You can get a ton of information really quickly in a condensed form, and then you move to forums and books. And then from forums and books, then you start asking questions. And then eventually you move up to, hey, I have specific needs that books and things don't address, and now I need to go out and find the right people, put myself in the right rooms, things like that. But
Hmm.
there's a ton of free resources at that, at that YouTube level. But you are never going to go wrong investing in yourself. I don't have any specific course that I would recommend anybody to take. I took a creative financing course because I knew nothing about it, and that was an investment in me, and it's probably been one of the best investments I've ever made. That $600 or $700 or whatever it was for that online course. And so taking money that you maybe, oh, I should save this and put it into a deal, and you take that and put it into yourself, is going to deliver far more returns than any amount of cash flow you'll ever get out of a single property.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Start with your YouTube University, Bigger Pockets. I really loved that managing rental properties with Brandon Turner.
Mm-hmm.
I listened to that once, then I went back and in stop start, I would
Mm-hmm.
write down notes on every chapter. That became my standard operating procedure for managing our long-term rentals. Uh, and then, of course, paying for the courses, you're investing in yourself. Eventually, coaching, mentorship, and then it's hiring CPAs and attorneys for very specific, information you don't have, licensed information. Now, so yeah, there's a progression there, just like the whole learning process when taking action.
I
Well,
think that the knowledge that, like, I'm no smarter or ambitious, or maybe more ambitious, but no smarter than anyone else, right? Just because I've done something is proof that anybody that's listening to this could also do it. It's just a matter of being willing to put yourself out there, take the risk, take the calculated risk, and consistently. I think that's the word or the code of my whole life is consistently moving the ball forward. Right? I don't need to make giant 90-yard returns on the ball. I need to just put my head down, do 2-yard runs all day long, every day for years, and I will get really, really far in this life.
what's next for you? Just continue what you're doing right now, dialing in the systems, going bigger.
Yeah, so the business is going to grow really significantly over the next year and a half. So last year was about getting a decent amount of portfolio properties purchased. This year is about building the business and the business systems, so that we can grow. Because with the way we're doing things today, without the VA, without the systems integrated, there's definitely a cap that we can manage ourselves, and not that we're managing the properties, but just managing our contractors and managing everything. And so we're putting those systems in place so that we can grow really significantly over the next year. But we're trying to get rental and flipping business just as boring as possible, where a property comes in, it flows through the whole process, it touches all the right things, and money comes out the other end. And that's and that's really what we're trying to make. I'm not shifting gears like, oh, we're not going to go do short-term rentals or shift to or storage units or anything. We're going to continue to block and tackle, do exactly what we're doing, and make this thing just continually grow. Because if we change gears, we have to change focus, and then we have to learn a whole new things, and it just slows the progress down. So this business that's what the plan there is. I've also recently started a transactional lending business, focusing on double close funding for wholesalers. And so I'm working on growing the awareness of that and growing that business. That's called REI Double Close. And then, I also have 4 small children, and a wife, and I would love to stop working 90, 100 hours a week and spend some time with them because, I mean, they're 8, 6, 3, and 7 months old. And so we're trying to take some more family vacations and, really get the businesses in a place that we can live. I mean, obviously I like to work, but we can live really well and do a lot of really cool things and experience the world as a family together.
That sounds fantastic. I've got 3 boys and love working from home. Um, I also really love that uh, how you phrased the fix and flip thing. Make it as boring as possible. We've had a couple exciting flip projects the last couple months, and I hate it. I don't
Mm-hmm.
like it. I don't like exciting uh, flip projects.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a perfect way to phrase it. Make it boring as possible.
Yeah.
Well, Lauren, I really appreciate your time. You've been a wealth of knowledge, and uh, if anybody wants to reach out, maybe invest with you, be a
Mm-hmm.
lender, maybe share some deals with you, a partner, where do they go? How do they find you?
So I have a fairly strong social media presence. So you can find me on Instagram or TikTok or at Dad Life Loren, Loren. And then Facebook is Loren Wernette. And if you want to just shoot me an email, it's Loren at rrprental.com.
Terrific. We'll put that in the show notes. Well, Lauren, thank you so much. Really appreciate you being on the show today, and I wish you all the best uh, in your business and your family life and everything in general.
Thank you so much, Aaron. It was a pleasure.